A doctor lifts the lid off a coffin, sealed for 30 years. Inside, he expects bones and decay. That is what 30 years in a damp vault produces. But what he finds makes him step back. The woman inside looks like she's sleeping, skin intact, limbs flexible, internal organs still present, no odor of decomposition, no embalming, no special conditions, no explanation, just impossible. The year was 1909. The woman had been dead since 1879. She was a French nun named Bernadette Soubirous, and her body is still intact today. Bernadette Soubirous was born in 1844 in Lourdes, a small town in the foothills of the French Pyrenees. Her family was poor, genuinely poor. They lived in a single room that had previously been used as a jail. Her father was an unemployed miller. She suffered from severe asthma her entire life. She was 14 years old when, in February 1858, she reported seeing a woman in white at a rocky grotto outside Lourdes. The apparitions continued 18 times over the following months. The woman identified herself as the Immaculate Conception. The Catholic Church investigated. The local bishop declared the apparitions worthy of belief in 1862. Lourdes became one of the most visited pilgrimage sites in the world. It still receives approximately 6 million visitors per year. Bernadette wanted no one of it. She found the attention unbearable. She entered a convent in Nevers in 1866 and spent the rest of her life in obscurity, in poor health, asking repeatedly to be left alone. She died on April 16, 1879. She was 35 years old, and that is where the story should have ended. 30 years after her death, the process toward canonization required that her remains be formally examined. The officials who gathered knew what they expected to find: 3 decades in a damp vault, a wooden coffin. Whatever biology had left behind after that amount of time in those conditions, the attending physician was not a man of faith. He was there precisely because he wasn't, to observe, record, and report without bias. Before the coffin was opened, he noted the environment. The vault was humid. The conditions were precisely those most favorable to rapid and complete decomposition. In normal circumstances, soft tissue begins to break down within days of death. Within weeks, it is largely gone. Within months, only bone remains. 30 years in a damp vault should have left nothing recognizable. Here is what the doctor wrote in his official report. The body is intact. The skin has dried slightly but has not decomposed. The muscles are still supple. The internal organs are present. The face is recognizable. This is not a devotional account. This is a medical report, signed by a physician, submitted as part of a legal canonization process. The doctor had no explanation. 10 years later, the coffin was opened again. A new medical team, a new examination. One of the doctors present had publicly stated before the examination that he expected to find normal decomposition. He intended to say so in his report. His report does not say so. The body remained intact, and this team noted something the first had observed but not emphasized: there was no odor. Decomposing organic matter produces a distinctive and unmistakable smell. There was none. The skeptics signed the same conclusion as the believers. The third and final examination took place in 1925, 46 years after her death. The remains were examined one final time before being placed in the reliquary where they rest today, a glass case in the chapel of St. Gildard in Nevers, visible to anyone who visits. The physician present, in 1925, noted that the color of the skin had darkened over the decades. Wax had been applied to the face and hands to restore their appearance for public viewing. This detail became important because it gave the skeptics something to work with. The most obvious explanation? Embalming. The 19th century had embalming techniques. They were documented, practiced, and left clear and identifiable traces. Chemical compounds in the tissue, specific patterns in the organs, characteristic changes to the internal structure. If she had been embalmed, this would be impressive, but not impossible. The physicians checked. They found no trace of embalming. None. Every marker that embalming leaves behind, absent. The explanation that should have closed the case didn't survive the first examination. The second explanation, the soil. Specific mineral conditions can naturally preserve organic matter through a process called saponification, in which body fat transforms into a soap-like substance under certain conditions. It happens, and it is documented. If the vault conditions had produced saponification, this would be unusual, but explainable. The physicians examined for this as well. Saponification produces a specific and unmistakable result, a uniform, waxy mass that bears no resemblance to intact tissue. What they found in Nevers was not saponification. The vault was damp, not mineral-rich. The conditions worked against preservation, not in favor of it. The second explanation didn't survive contact with the evidence either. The third explanation, offered more recently, stable environmental conditions in the convent slowed decomposition. This explanation has a problem. The 1909 report explicitly states that the vault was damp and the conditions were those most favorable to decomposition, not preservation. The environment was actively working against what was found. 3 explanations, 3 examinations, 3 medical teams across 46 years. None of the explanations survived the actual reports. Here is what the record shows. A woman died in 1879 in a damp convent vault in central France. She was examined 30 years later by a physician who expected decay and found an intact body, examined again 10 years after that. 3 teams, 3 decades apart. The same conclusion each time: embalming ruled out by the examining physicians themselves. Saponification ruled out. No natural cause has been established. What do you call a body that refuses to obey the laws that govern every other body? The Church has a word for it. Science, so far, does not, and Bernadette Soubirous is not alone. The Catholic Church has documented this phenomenon across dozens of cases, different centuries, different climates, different continents. The same result. If this story made you question what you thought you knew, subscribe. Sacred Strange exists for exactly these stories, the ones where evidence runs out and the question remains. Next time, we go deeper.